All right. Struggling to find the right holistic provider. What is there? What's a simpler way to match with experts based on your values and needs? Today, we are streaming live, my expert interview with Alenka Kyslik, the founder of SAHA, who's revolutionizing how we connect with holistic care. All right. So join us live as we uncover groundbreaking softwares that's connecting holistic health seekers like you with the right providers who really understand your needs. So right here in Talking Business with Ritz. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talking Business with Ritz, the show that humanizes entrepreneurship by showcasing the human behind the title before the offer. So I am your host, Ritzo Loredo Rectra, and today there is a change of plan as our expert guest for today is a no-show. So there is a last-minute cancellation. All right. So something personal have come up, so she could not make it in today's show. I hope she's all right though. So I know, right? The topics are very interesting for us entrepreneurs, but as we all know, life happens and the show must go on. So please enjoy what I have for you today. Best business advice you've ever received.
I think it probably goes back to what I was saying earlier, that you don't have to follow what everyone else does. You can define things on your own. It's not the corporate world, so make it your own.
Right. Now, in 3 words, how would your brand describe you?
Intense, adventurous, silly.
Okay. All right. Last question. What advice would you give your younger self?
Stop caring about what other people think about you.
I like that. All right. Awesome. Thanks, Alenka, for those candid responses. It's not every day we get such personal look at forces, that driving a leader like yourself. Thank you very much for giving those candid answers. All right, moving on to our viewers. If you're enjoying this, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. And for everyone joining us live, keep sending in those questions for our Q&A session. Now, as we move forward, I'm excited to explore more. Everyone, please tune in. Let's shift gears and dive deeper into Alenka's expertise as we learn from the expert. All right, let's dive in. All righty, welcome back, amazing Pambams, to the Learn from the Expert segment. We just scratched the surface with Alenka's fascinating story. Now let's dive deeper into her expertise. So let's start with the first topic. All right. First, empowering holistic brands, identity, and communication. So Alenka, for holistic providers just starting out, based on your experience, right? What's the first step in creating a brand identity that truly resonates with their target audience?
Yeah, so I see this a lot, and I saw this again this week with a holistic provider I'm actually having a call with. Often they are so immersed, and this goes for any expert, right? You know what to do and how to help people, but you're so far in that the words that you use are not something that the average person understands.
Exactly.
So how can you make what you do, and in marketing we call it the pain point, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing that is the pain you're trying to get rid of for your end user. How can you describe that in a way that's like super, super simple so that someone who's never met you, doesn't know a thing about what you do or who you are, can understand it? It's a lot harder than it sounds, which is why there's, people who do that for a living, right? They help people define what they do. But I think it's really important to identify those pain points, because without that, you're just saying a bunch of words that most people don't get, except your fellow experts. And that's not who you're trying to help, right?
Right. All right. Now, once they have their brand identity nailed down, right? What strategies do you recommend for communicating their message effectively?
Yeah, so I think, we always talk about like you have to have some sort of place where people can find you. That can look like a website, that can look like social media. It doesn't have to be what everyone else does, right? So if you're really uncomfortable showing up on social media, that's okay. I have a friend who's a coach locally, and she gets most of her clients from in-person events. She goes to networking events, right? So you don't have to become the best on social media. Some people make better in-person connections. There's different ways of doing that. There's tons of virtual meetups that are free, that can connect you to the right group. I think it's just important to do what I spoke a little earlier. Do what aligns with you. Do what feels right for you, because otherwise people can feel that you're not comfortable with it, and then they won't be comfortable booking you the same way as if they found you when you are in a very authentic place to yourself.
Exactly. It's very difficult when they book time with you, right? And clients are asking questions about how you can help them. You cannot be even express or explain to them the way they would understand. It's like, okay, what's going on?
and it's something you can practice, right? I do this when I explain what SAHA is. I actually go to networking events and I repeat it. You have like 30 seconds to explain.
Yep.
Repeat it over and over again, and you meet someone new, you tweak it a little bit to see like where someone eyes lit up or where someone like they had an aha moment, right? Because when you're looking at their eyes, you can see it. So practice and practice and practice, and you can do this online in like many different forums as well.
Exactly.
But just find ways or play with. Honestly, AI is great at this. You can have a conversation with AI and try it to get it to say like, hey, this is what I do. Can you explain like who my target, or you can say my target audience is, right? There's different ways of getting that answer for you, but it still has to feel right to you, right? So whatever you end up with, make sure it aligns with who you are, what you are trying to do, and not with what other people are telling you should be doing.
Exactly. So what are some common challenges holistic brands face in their branding efforts, and how can they overcome them?
Yeah, I think the pain point is a huge one, right? Like, what is the problem you're trying to solve? And being really, really clear with that. You want to help everyone, but you're probably really good at helping a targeted group. And when you can isolate that down, it makes a huge difference. Like one of my friends is a somatic practitioner. She was kind of like a general somatic practitioner, and then she really niched down into her target audience. And her audience blew up, and their interactions on social media is like unheard of compared to any other account I'm aware of. So it might sound like the thing that I repeat over and over again is you can do a lot of things poorly or a few things really well. And it's up to you to choose how you want to do that. And I would argue do a few things really well.
Right. It's like my husband says, don't major in minor things.
Yeah, because ultimately that's not what's going to get you the result. Like, right, try to figure out what is going to get you those things, what is going to get you the sales, and how you're actually helping people. Because if you don't understand that, then you're not going to be able to build something that can sustain you, and then you can help other people, right? If you're not able to take care of yourself, you can't be there for other people.
Exactly. Now, where am I? Oh, let's shifting to the next topic. All right, let's shift to the next topic, and our next topic would be, here we go, balancing entrepreneurship and wellness and startups. So, Alenka, in your experience, right, in matching providers, health providers, holistic providers, and clients, how crucial is it to integrate wellness practices from the very beginning of the startup journey?
Yeah, so they say entrepreneurship is a marathon, not a sprint. So I'm not a runner. I've run a 5K. That was the extent of my running experience, but still I trained for it and I planned for it, and I took it at a stable pace versus the person I was running with at the time went just like crazy, and then I would catch up, and and I was better standing at the end than they were. So like, what do you want? And the thing is about, this looks like, anything else, but when you are in a place where you've slept well, where you've eaten well, where you're not pushing, everything, and trying to get it all done, you're going to make better decisions, and you're going to be better present for your family. There's actually a lot of really interesting studies that show that when you balance the thing you're passionate at, entrepreneurship or whatever else, with other things in your life, instead of obsessively searching for that, you're going to do better at the thing that you're passionate about. So when you take time for yourself, when you spend time with family, with friends, you kind of build that balanced life. It's going to be more sustainable. It's going to last longer, and the end result is going to be better. So how can you kind of balance that out? I actually posted about it this week. I did a bunch of things, probably too much. And so I personally took some time to like sit down and relax and do things that rejuvenated me.
Right. Now, how should entrepreneurs measure the impact of incorporating wellness into their business model on both personal and professional level?
I think
How do you measure yours?
How do I measure mine? Yeah. So it's in the small things like, I think it's not like the same thing as measuring like ROAS, like return on ad spend. Like that's not like, it's not as strict, right? But for me, it's things like, am I able to be like responding and not forgetting things, right? Can I get the things done that I remembered I needed to get done? Because if I'm forgetting things or if there's spelling mistakes when I'm drafting something up, that probably means I pushed myself too hard, right? I pushed myself too hard this week. I dropped the keys to my car and the fob just like shattered. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to stress about this. I'm just going to pick up the pieces. It's still in pieces. But like, I was pushing myself too hard and I was running around. I wasn't really holding onto the keys, That for me is one of the signals that, okay, like I pushed myself too hard. I misplaced my wallet for 3 days.
3 days.
It was in the car. It was fine. Like that was all I was worried about, was driving without a license on me. But like what I'm saying is those are signals to me that I am pushing myself too hard. Are you eating well enough? When you're with your loved ones, can you actually have a conversation and be present with them? Or are you in your head and putting to-do lists, right? And for me, that's how I measure it, is how present am I in the moments I want to be present in, and how does the rest of my life look, right? When your life gets crazy, certain things show up, like your desk might get messy. You might not, get done the things you want to get done, and that's okay. But at what point is it turning into you making mistakes in your business, small or big?
Right. So looking forward, how do you see the role of wellness evolving in the entrepreneurial culture?
Yeah, it's so fascinating. So I am more in certain groups that I didn't have exposure to before becoming a founder. And there's a lot of really beautiful companies starting up that help entrepreneurs on their wellness journey. So they help balance entrepreneurship and personal wellness, as well as like, what are you passionate about? What are you doing? Because when you're doing what's called the genius zone, right? And different people call it different things, but when you're doing the thing you are best at, which is the genius zone, you are in your best place. So how can you offset all of the other things, right? Like there's so many things that we need to do. Can we outsource it? Can we minimize the work we're doing? How can we push that off? And that can look like a lot of different things, right? But I think wellness, people are understanding more and more. The more you get to know yourself and what you're good at, the more you can focus on that. And it's not even just knowing yourself and what you're good at, but it's also knowing what can make you that best version of yourself, right? Because it can often be taking breaks. It can be little things like lately, because I was like, I'm not going to get a nap in. I know I need a nap. Let me just lie down with headphones in and listen to some calming music for 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be, I know my brain's not going to be able to meditate because it's like, it's on another planet. I'm not going to be able to nap, but I need a rest and I need to be in a better place for the rest of my day. So I think it's also getting to know yourself. And this is like the tougher part of it, but it's really valuable. Accepting the parts of yourself that aren't so pretty, that you're not proud of, that you don't feel good about. Because if you don't accept them, you're going to fight with them, and that's not going to get you anywhere.
Exactly. Your best enemy is yourself.
Yeah, we're really good at criticizing. We're really good at being hard on ourselves. We say things in our own heads that we would never say out loud to the people we care about.
Right. Have you been in a situation where you're facing the mirror and then you're actually talking to yourself out loud?
I have tried. It's really hard out loud. In my head, it's easier, but sometimes I'm like, no, I got this. I can do this. Okay, let's go. But there is something to be said about it. I think it's one of the most TED Talks watched ever about power poses and like how your posture actually changes. So there's a lot of really interesting things. But when you do certain things, it can actually change the way your brain works and the neural pathways and all sorts of things. So what can you do to help with that change? Because it's happening.
Yes, true. Because you can see yourself, how you react. Right. Okay, now that's a topic. That's a topic for another day. All right, now let's go for the third one, which is matching clients with holistic providers. Here we go, seamlessly. So, Alenka, I know you've explained some of it. Some of what do you call that? Features of SAHA. Right? Could you explain how your software actually identifies the right match between clients and holistic providers? What are the key factors it considers?
Yeah, so it's something we're building right now, and I'm really excited about it. But I think something that we don't often think about is what, and if you don't know, you don't know, right? So we can't be hard on ourselves for that. But what do I need today? What do I need today? And what are the things holding me back, right? So for example, if you're in a lot of pain, if you're really stressed out, you're not going to be able to, like some people are like, oh, do the 6-week course. I'm like, I don't have the energy to do that. Like, I'm not going to show up to these, the virtual rooms or like fill out the paperwork. Like, we need to be very honest with ourselves about where we're at. And sometimes we can't be. So we're accounting for that in the matchmaking algorithm and building it out so that it checks where you're at today, what symptoms that you have, and then also what values do you have, right? And there's different ways of doing that, and that's our secret sauce, if you will. But I think what's really important is when we talk about values, as an example, in terms of worldview, you might want something super conventional, right? You might want when I think conventional, I think more acupuncture, chiropractor, physical therapy, massage therapy, right? Like that's more conventional. And then there's like the more unconventional, like energy healers, somatic healers, and there's a scale. So we're creating a sliding scale of where you're at. And then providers also say where they're at. And this can relate to different things. And we'll also include, depending on the symptom and depending, on the use case. So it'll be a dynamic thing, worldview from a belief standpoint. So there's certain types of beliefs. And I think it's important that, especially when we're talking mental health, you are matched with someone of similar beliefs than you, right? If you have different religious beliefs than your therapist, it's going to be really hard for you to get somewhere, And so it's hard to find that today. It's hard to find someone who is on the same page as you. And like I said, that kind of goes to other pieces as well. I have this healing framework, and it starts with you feel a symptom, then you need some sort of relief, right? Because without relief, it's really hard to do anything about it. And then if you found relief, and so we matchmake you based on that, then we try to find the root cause. And then we go to prevent or manage. And what I mean by root cause and prevent or manage is for me, the things that I have learned about my body and my brain is that I can't change the shape of certain parts of my body, like my joints. The joints are going to be the same size. They're not the right size for my height. But that's what they are. So we got to work with it. And so how can we work with it? And so and I think a lot of people's is a prevent and manage sort of thing. Some people you can treat and you can, deal with that. But a lot of people it's a prevent and manage. And that's sometimes really hard to admit to, because you have to admit that this is the rest of your life, right? And for me, that means I've cut down. I almost don't drink any alcohol ever, because it's not worth it for me to misstep a little bit and re-enter, right? That's a personal choice. That can look like a lot of different things. So then we go we have the prevent and manage, and then we have commitment to doing the work. And in each of these, if you don't find answers, you kind of loop back around. So
up to that level, wow.
Yeah, so it's a very detailed level. So I think the examples I give are, I don't know if it depends on your age and where you live in the world, but OkCupid, if anyone remembers that dating app from back in the day, you remember? Okay. So they had you would answer questions like, how important is having kids to you, right? And then you would say how important is that they want kids? Okay, you want kids, great. And then how important is that to you? And there was a sliding scale. So what we're doing is we're adding weight to each of these questions in terms of where you're at in your wellness and your symptoms, et cetera. And we're adding weight, a weighted question. So literally a scale to say okay, this is more important and this is less important. And then you answer another question and it kind of shifts. So there's a lot of different things going on in the background. And for anyone who builds software out there or experienced software, because I'm sure everyone has, the best interactions you will have are things that actually have tons of calculations going on in the background. You don't actually have to do much on what you're clicking at, right? But there's things happening in the background. And that's the goal with SAHA, is you're already not in a great place if you're here, right? If you're looking for help, you don't have a lot of energy. So how can we make that matchmaking experience as seamless and as clean as possible?
Interesting. So all this, so when they get matched, right? How does it work? Do they do it virtually? Because when you say, or this SAHA only is available locally? Yeah.
So there's a thing called geo-locking. geographic locking, if you will. So, and this is really important because certain types of professions are regulated based on certain geographic regions,
Yes.
right? So like licensing for certain things is based on like a state or a province. And so they can't treat people outside of those states. That's why like some websites, they'll ask you like if on the browser, like, hey, can we look at your location, right? So what we do is we restrict the search results based on your current location. That means though, that there are lots of options globally. And I think what's really important and really valuable that doesn't exist today is for the ones that are not regulated in terms of like, I don't mean not regulated at all. I mean, not regulated by certain strict regions, right? Because like, for example, in the States, a therapist is licensed based on a state itself, and they have to practice within the state. But there's also like acupuncture, you can do federal licensing, right? And so that's different. And then you can act, if you're an acupuncturist, you can act as a health coach outside of the states, right? So there's different types of regulation, and we do all of that on our side, right? That's something you don't have to worry about. You just come in and say, I want virtual, or I want in person, or either is fine with me, or at home. So we'll have providers that could actually come to your home, right? Like a massage therapist, acupuncturist, these types of people do that. You pick that, and then you get results based on that matchmaking system. And what I was saying about like the location is match. And then language is really important too, because I think what's interesting is like some people are multilingual. They could take advice, or, you know, they could speak with a provider based on multiple languages. That opens up incredible experts around the world too, right? And I think about a lot of really beautiful things, like, you know, you could be a provider in the Philippines or in Australia. You could be treating people in Canada and the US at hours that are more convenient to them, so they don't have to take time off work for themselves. So you could book appointments during your day, and it could be their evening, or, you know, whatever it works out to be. And it just opens up a lot more than what we're currently used to understanding and seeing.
Right, very interesting. So how do you see the role of technology evolving in the holistic health industry right now, especially in terms of client-provider relationships?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of really interesting things that are happening right now. The fact that we're doing this, right? The fact that we're streaming live is just, it speaks to so many things. Like, so many people are doing, like, I do my therapy virtually, right? I've never met her in person. I think the role of technology in terms of that has changed a lot. I think that then opens up us to having providers around the world. And I've spoken with so many providers who have treated people all over the world, which 5 years ago even wasn't something that was very common, right? It was more, and then I think in terms of how technology, in terms of SAHA, how we do it, is then we are able to build something that's dynamic, that actually complies with different governmental regulations from the back end. Like, you don't have to see any of this. You don't have to worry about it. I have to worry about it, right? And how do I make sure that that all works in a way that is very powerful? And something that, you know, we're looking at doing in the future is also research, and how can we do that in a way, you know, working with universities, et cetera. But like, that's not something that was easily done because the groups of people were, you know, local, had to be in person, et cetera. Now we can do it in a much more dynamic and expansive way.
Right. And I agree with you with the virtual stuff. My nutritionist last April is virtual as well. She is from the US. I'm from Asia. I'm in Kuala Lumpur. And yeah. And now she became my client as well. So we became close. So yeah, but in person, we haven't really met. We're just, you know, talking. She's advising, and I'm doing her advice and all that. And yeah, it's really great. And it's changing the way we do holistic, you know, health management and all that. This is really a fantastic interview, Alenka. Thank you very much. This is very, very, really, really amazing.
Thank you.
All right. As I mentioned, I have a couple of questions collected by back end. So let's get on with it. Here we go. All right. So first question here. Can clients switch providers if they feel the match isn't quite right?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's so essential. Like the whole point is to help you, right? And if you don't feel like this is helping you, it shouldn't be the case. And so something I didn't mention because there's only so much time when you're in the middle of it is that every time that you book an appointment, we want feedback from you. It could be thumbs up, thumbs down. Like right, we don't have to write an essay on how it went, but if you want, but we want to know how, and we're collecting that on the provider side as well because they know generally too, like what was a good fit and what wasn't a good fit. I think one of our values as a company, which is really important to me, is transparency. So as we vet the providers when they come on the platform, one of the key things is if they don't think they can help someone, they pass them along and give recommendations, and we educate them on the other providers on the platform, right? But they shouldn't. Something that happens a lot, unfortunately, in certain spaces is people, they desperately need to make money. And so they kind of hold on to clients in a way that isn't helping the clients. And then it doesn't build trust. It doesn't build a long-term relationship. And it's a scarcity mindset, which is a whole nother conversation we could have, but it's not worth it. And so we're making sure that doesn't happen.
All right. Now, I'm going to skip the feedback because you just mentioned you're collecting feedback. All right. Now, here's another question. What happens if there is no immediate match available for clients' specific needs?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. What we are doing for launch, and I mean, this is more on the business side that we can talk about it, but we are targeting the most underserved cohort. That just means a group of people. And we are bringing on providers that are only serving that specific cohort. But again, like maybe in this case, this person wants like an in-person meeting, and I can't cover the entire world to start off with. Eventually that would be great, but like that's a hard ask, depending on where you live too, right? So there are different things that we're going to try to do. Haven't determined what that will look like yet, but partnerships with potentially other places to even get you resources like books or courses or other things. And I'm saying maybe like this, we haven't defined exactly what that'll look like, but we do have different ways I want to approach this. I just need to make sure that it's something I can actually help the most amount of people. But if this person, and this has happened to me already, so people can reach out to me. If you're like, hey, someone reached out to me about EDS, which is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a very prevalent issue amongst especially women, and there's really no standardized treatment for it. If you have something, you're like, hey, I might know someone. I can't promise that I can connect you, but I know a lot more people, being in this space, and maybe I'd be able to help you out. So I'm going to try to build my brain knowledge into the platform.
Right. Okay. Now, next question. How do you ensure the privacy and security of both clients and providers on your platform?
Yeah, so I briefly mentioned it, but we're going to make sure we are HIPAA compliant, which is the standard compliancy in the US, and then there's other compliancies around the world. So it's making sure that we are compliant based on government regulations, and then going above and beyond that and making sure that we are absolutely locked down and secure. Initially, and this is more for the client side, we will not be doing charting, and charting means it's the notes that the doctors or the providers take, right? That we're not going to be doing that right away. We might do that down the line. That's obviously a potential security thing for the providers. It's more of like depositing money into their accounts, and so we work with compliance, like people. So anytime you take any sort of payment, you work with a partner that is compliant, and they deal with all the safety and security of like payment and transferring of funds. You don't want to take that on. That there are experts. So you bring on experts for different things is what I'm trying to say, and make sure that it is at the highest compliance. And for me, it's important that we take what the best is in the world in terms of the restrictions, and we build based on that.
Yeah, I think the question is more about the charting stuff, because that is where, the meat of the pudding is there. Everything is there. All right. Now, I believe you've mentioned also about language. So the question is, how does your platform handle language barriers between clients and providers in international matches?
Yeah, so I mentioned this briefly. My background is Canadian. I speak Czech, I speak French, as well as English. And so I have a very different perspective than some people who sound like me. We'll leave it at that. But what I mean by that is I think it's really important that you are matched based on who is helpful to you. And language is one of those things, right? So if you, when we do the matchmaking, you'll have options for like languages that are that you can be matched based on, but it needs to be languages that you can speak to your issue in. Like I grew up visiting my grandparents in the Czech Republic, speaking about history and, family stuff. But like, could I speak about my health? Absolutely not. I don't have the vocabulary for it, right? So let's make sure that when you're matched, you can actually speak in terms of those language. And to the other person's point, maybe you're not. What we're going to do is launch those targeted cohorts, like I mentioned, those targeted segments of people and their symptoms, and then we're going to expand and grow. So the goal is that we can grow and really address those needs and tweak and adjust and learn, right? There's a lot of feedback, a lot of back and forth. Like I want all the feedback, please send it. But part of that is the language barriers. And we won't match you with someone who isn't like you can't speak to, because if you can't vocalize your needs, that's not helpful either.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. We have more questions, but in the interest of time, we'll wrap up. For now, thank you very much, Alenka Kyslik, all right, for sharing your valuable insight with us. So now, let's continue with our next segment, which is work with the expert. Here we go. All right, now welcome back, fantastic Pambams. Today's insight, remind us that integrating holistic practices isn't just beneficial, it is feasible. All right, so with the right holistic health provider, balancing wellness with the hustle of startup life is crucial. We cannot continue entrepreneurship without wellness. All right, so as we move into the work with the expert segment, Alenka, here we go. Can you share with our audience how they can engage with your services?
Yeah. How you can connect with me. And I wanted to say this for those who still had questions. Please message me. I'm happy to answer them. So we are in development. So we are building the platform. You can take a look. The website's on the screen conveniently. Thank you. It's down there. So you can sign up for the waitlist at sahacollective.com. You can message us on Instagram, YouTube, or TikTok at saha.collective. And then you can email us if you'd like, info@sahacollective.com. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I am the person behind the social media accounts. So, there's no secret. I'm more than happy to help in any way I can.
All right. Are you also in LinkedIn?
Yes, we have. So it's Saha dot, spelling the word dot collective.
Okay. Okay. There we go. And let me just flash your email. Let me edit it because I got that one with the Alenka in it. So let me save it and flash it on the screen. Here we go. This is the email address?
Yes, thank you.
All right. So this is a very, very, fantastic episode, Alenka, explaining all this to us. And it's very new. I haven't heard anything about, connecting holistic providers with clients itself. And it's very interesting because it's not only going to be for local, but it's global. And then you also mentioned the geolocation locking. So I can see a lot of benefits for this one for a lot of people who cannot afford really very expensive, holistic treatment and all that. All right. So your story and strategies have truly enriched our understanding in this case. Thank you. Thank you very much, Miss Alenka Kyslik. Sorry. I always Kingsley.
It's like, you don't have to. My first name is fine.
Okay, Alenka. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us today. A heartfelt thank you to you for joining us and imparting such valuable knowledge with our audience.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Alenka Kyslik. All right, stay with us until the end as we close the show. To our viewers, thank you for tuning in. Remember, the key to growth is continual learning and adaptation. So keep pushing the boundaries of what you can achieve. So for those of you who are watching right now, check out Alenka's offerings and see how you can start your journey to holistic health. So please visit her website and connect with her. Here we go. Bam Bam, if you find this helpful again and entertaining, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for more inspiring episodes. So until next time, keep striving, keep thriving. This is Ritz Loredo Rectra and our expert guest, Alenka Kyslik. Stay safe and healthy as we continue talking business with Ritz. Bye, everybody.